Howdy. I know that I look like absolute death. I'm fresh out of the shower after an extremely long day. And I only slept like, look at me, goodness gracious. I only slept like 3 hours last night. And I worked for 12 hours. And I'm going to be back on it tomorrow too. So we're just going to have to deal with the fact that this is what I'm working with right now. I've looked better. I've also looked worse. So, good thing this isn't about how I look. Meanwhile, let me pay very much attention to how I look to make it somewhat presentable. I don't know what to tell you. I have to be quiet because it's late. But I was gone all day and didn't want to miss the opportunity to be able to do this as I wind down with my tea. The one thing I have to say is it's very important to trust your gut. Trust it so much. The thing about trusting your gut is that it's not the same thing as trusting your head. My boss today, we were driving, and he asked, I was driving, and he asked if the car needed gas, and it was under half a tank. So I told him, well, it's under half a tank. And it's a new used vehicle. And he's not used to having used vehicles. He's used to driving like Teslas and shit. So he was like, is that fine? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, normally, you know, a used car, like, you want to keep over like a quarter tank in it at all times. You don't really want to let it get under just because it wears on the tank. But yeah, like, it should be fine right now. He's like, okay. The car ended up breaking down, thankfully, at the end of the day after everything was done and after we dropped off the other workers. But it had to get towed, and according to the mechanic who looked at it, this is why we were gone so long, according to the mechanic who looked at it, it's likely the water pump, or the fuel pump, I mean. And he was like, and I was just thinking, well, he just said to put gas in it and see, and then you can know if it's the fuel pump, and then you can go from there. Not that, obviously, if it had a bad fuel pump, that would have gone out regardless. But my boss literally had the feeling at one point in time about the fuel. He just thought about it and was like, hey, is there enough fuel? And I went with reason and said, yeah, that's fine. I wasn't thinking with my intuition at all. I'm putting that down because I'm tired of the light in my eyes. And I was thinking about it as I was showering. I was like, he brought up the fuel thing. Literally, the thing was that we were just having this conversation about trusting your gut and the importance of trusting your gut. And he was like, not just like, you know, with like relationships, with any relationship, with like friendships, with work, with anything. And I was like, you're so right. It's hard sometimes to know those things, but you're right. And immediately then he was like, hey, does the car have enough gas? So he was already feeling that. He don't know shit about cars. He had no idea what the issue was. If it was the fuel pump, like, he doesn't know about any of that. Fully admitted that. I know better about those things. But it's almost like the knowing better made the space for me to reason instead of trusting my intuition. They are not one and the same. Reason suffices for many things. But when your intuition is, that's the difference too. It's not always about like a person that is constantly only working off of their intuition without reason becomes delusional. But a person that is always only working off of their reason without any intuition becomes arrogant and pedantic. So, it does require a balance. And generally the balance is go with what's reasonable. But if your intuition is telling you something, trust it. Your intuition isn't always doing shit. That's why trying to trust it consistently all the time ends up leading you astray. You end up listening to other things, like your indigestion, rather than your gut intuition, right? But when your intuition speaks, it means what it says. And I think that's, I was just going to say something misogynistic, or at least that would come across as misogynistic. I decided against it, but now that I'm bringing it up, it's like, I just feel like in like a normal male-female relationship, generally like the man is it's hard to say. Traditionally, women married up. They dated up. They were looking for the highest class man to be with. Nowadays, women tend to settle, and men are looking for the highest class woman. So it's changed a bit, and I guess that's why, like, you can't always trust those things. But traditionally, you could pretty much trust a man's reason all the time, and that's why it was easy for women to fall into submitting to them. But when a woman, and like women generally didn't speak up in society about a lot of things, but when a woman did speak up, you better fucking listen, because there was a reason for it, especially a good woman, But do they even make those anymore? Okay, listen. That might have been a little harsh, but women love talking. They don't love listening. My left ear is ringing. It's like quit being so negative. Okay, I'm a woman. I get it. But what I'm getting at is that as I was literally being like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. We don't need any gas in the car. It already has gas. I was forsaking my intuition. Why is my left ear still ringing? I wasn't listening. I was talking, but not listening. Pretty common. Okay, fine. I get it. The left ear is ringing because it's reminding me that that's not actually a feminine trait. I get that from a toxic masculine. A toxic masculine presents itself in a feminine way, and a toxic feminine presents itself in a masculine way. An empowered feminine is not masculine. An empowered masculine is not feminine. And an individual is conceived of both concepts, both aspects within them divinely. It's just a balance. As I was talking shit about women, the Eight of Wands came out in the upright. In the reverse, but face up. The Lord of Swiftness. The Lord of Swiftness. We got this sigil of Lucifer there when it's in the reverse. In the upright, it's magic. It's the magic symbol. mean, it hurts. What I'm hearing right now is that's the importance of getting rest. Because when you're not well rested, you're not thinking clearly. You're not listening clearly. I did good work today. My boss was very happy. My clients were very happy. My coworkers were very happy. That is rewarding, right? However, I caught myself not following my intuition. Well, it wasn't my intuition, I suppose. Maybe I shouldn't be beating myself up about it, but there's a warning there, a caution as to taking care of oneself and getting enough rest. I'm talking to myself right now. It was a long day, and I'm going to be up early again. I'm going to have a long day tomorrow, I'm sure. And I don't think that we're probably working on Thursday, though, or if we are, we're only working in the morning. Can't imagine that they would have us working all Thanksgiving. I mean, I'm not doing anything, but I have a feeling that I'm going to end up being off on Thursday, and then I'm going to work on Friday. Potentially even this weekend. I want to prioritize time to be able to do these readings still, and to give them genuine energy and healthy energy, not exhausted energy that isn't trusting itself, or even like being fully keen even outside of oneself. I mean, that's probably asking a lot of me in general, really. But that's something I've always taken pride in. I literally hear the universe scolding me like, yeah, this isn't about you taking pride in shit. Quit being so prideful. This isn't about you. Why are you so obsessed with yourself? It's fine to be balanced, idiot. You don't constantly have to be right all the time. You don't have to be in control all the time. That one hits. It hits. I know. This shit is hot. Listen. I'm not trying to be in control. Do I look like somebody that should be in control? Of myself, yeah. I mean, I'm running for president still. I don't give a fuck. So if Trump is president now, not if you make me president. I'm gonna just keep running. I'm Forrest Gump over here, baby. I'm gonna run myself silly. The universe is like, stop. That's what we're telling you. We're telling you. We're telling you. Lord of Swiftness is literally in the reverse. You don't gotta run that shit. Quit running. Can you quit running? Can you slow the fuck down? For like a minute. Can you? And I'm all like, no, I got ADHD. Like, this is not what we're talking about. Quit making excuses. I didn't make myself have ADHD, universe. They don't think it's funny. They don't think that's a funny joke. I do, though. Alright, the next card I got is the Blasted Tower. Lord of the Hosts of the Mighty. Okay, this just gave me the wildest. I'm gonna have to tell you about this dream sequence. It's in the upright. Okay, so I had this dream earlier this year. Actually, it was when I was working in Wisconsin this summer. maybe even just before that when I was staying in my friend's basement. But I had this dream. I don't remember. I don't remember all of it. I remember being in this building that was kind of like a club, kind of like the comedy clubs, like a club. But I kept there were like this roommate that I had and her friends and this dude that I dated that was like, they all like ganged up on me. And they were like pushing me out of this club, essentially. Well, they weren't pushing me out of the club. They were like pretty much like demeaning me and bullying me until I like went and isolated. Because there's like a party, there's all these celebrities and different stuff like that. Well, like local celebrities here in Austin, you know. And they didn't want me to be there. Especially because like people knew me and they didn't like that. And they didn't like that. They didn't want people to know me. They didn't want people to like see me. So they like kind of just like they bullied me into isolating to the point that I like went through these doors and started going down into like essentially like a basement type deal. It was kind of just like a lower level. It wasn't really a basement, but like it was secluded from the public. Like nobody went down there. Well, the party goers didn't go down there, but when I went down there, there was a whole bunch of kids, like young teenagers, like 11 to 13-year-olds, something like that, 10 to 13-year-olds, and there was this guy. It was somebody I knew, but I can't really think of who. But he saw me and he was like, "Oh, hey, Jam." And like, I got this real weird vibe from him, but like he was like alluring. He's like baiting me. And I remember like continuing to go down this platform into this lower level. Everything was red. The whole room was painted red. It's like a concrete room, but everything was painted red. And there was just like this, like, it wasn't a stairway, it was like a ramp that like went down into this little area, and there were all of these kids, and for some reason I feel like a lot of them were like young boys and they were shirtless for some reason. And I remember just getting this weird vibe. But he like called me over or whatever, and like the people that were bullying me were like all like sneering, like pushing me forward essentially. And then they closed the door and I realized that I was locked in there. And I remember like for a second being scared and then being like, I'm not going to be scared of this. And especially because like there was a whole bunch of kids. But then like some of the kids had their mouths like sealed shut. And the ones that didn't started like mocking me and like chanting. And I couldn't speak. I remember feeling like my throat chakra completely closed up and I suddenly couldn't speak and I was completely mute. And I remember being like, realizing that like I'd essentially fallen into a karmic cycle and that these people were performing some type of witchcraft on me. And in that realization, Like, I remember that guy, like this older guy or whatever, that with all these kids, like, had this look on his face where he was like kind of proud of himself because he saw that I couldn't speak and he felt like he had succeeded. And he started approaching me like he was gonna like entrap me, and like the kids behind him that were chanting were like coming up like they were gonna get me too. And I remember that instead of being scared, I just like, and I've done this in dreams before when I have like these like weird nightmare type dreams where I like overpower the fear. That's what it feels like. And I did that, and I think I told them to like shut up. I said something so simple. But it was really forceful. It was really powerful. And I don't remember what it was that I said, but it was really forceful and it was really powerful. And the kids that were chanting kind of like flew back a little bit. And the guy looked really like, at first he looked like so surprised, but then he looked like mad, like, oh, bitch, like you fucked up. I'm about to get you. And I remember like the kids that had their mouths sealed, like being like surprised, like they did not expect that I would be able to do that. And kind of, I guess, because I showed them that they weren't bound by whatever this magic was, even though it felt like it. I think that's probably why the guy was mad, because there was like the whole energy shifted in the room. And I remember that like some of the kids and the guy started coming towards me, but then like the rest of the kids started like spiraling in the room, and it just created this like weird energy in the room. And the guy was mad about it because I was like controlling it. And I remember him being like, I don't think he was like, get her, essentially, but like, I mean, that it was what it was, essentially. I don't think that's actually what he said, but it was something like that, where like, then these kids start coming after me, the ones that had been chanting, and I just like disappeared. I like exited the room. Like I just left them there. And suddenly I was back in the party area. And I remember like seeing through that. Like I saw like as I left, like it was like third person watching a movie, and like the kids run up to the door and they realized like the door that these fake friends of mine had locked, you know, behind me. They ran up and realized that they were locked in this room. And they were like, we can't get out. And then one guy was like, I don't even understand what just happened or how that happened. And then like, suddenly the dream was so weird, and it was just like a weird energy, but like suddenly I was like outside of the building, and I was looking at the building, and the building was like really tall, brick, kind of like a rectangle. And like as I was looking at it, it was so weird because like I could see through the building, and I could see like layers. I don't even know how to describe it. Like I said, like they were trying to trap me in this room in there, right? And so what it looked like when I was looking at it was like as if there was like a box that was locked in another box that was the building. And that's what I was seeing somehow. I don't know how else to describe it. It was really weird. But I literally had a little thing of popcorn, and I was popping popcorn into my mouth. And I remember feeling very like smug. There were 4 or 5 people, including my old roommate, and this other dude, which like it might have been her friend, it might have been her one of her guy friends, and then one of her girlfriends, and then my ex, and well, a dude that I dated, and they were all standing looking like I was behind them eating popcorn. They were in front of me looking, not knowing that I was behind them, and they were looking at the building, and it was almost like they were looking at it the same way that I was, only they couldn't see through it the same way that I did. And because there were people trapped in that room, they thought that it was me, and so they were like laughing to each other and like feeling all like, oh, we got her, we did it. They're just feeling proud of themselves because apparently the plan was to trap me. And I walked over them while eating popcorn and was like, I said something. Man, I really wish that I could. I wish I would have written this down. Like, I wish I could remember what I said. I think I did write it down. Actually, now that I think of it. Because I said something to them that was super smug, and it startled them because they didn't know that I was there. And I remember them turning around and the look on their faces where they were just like, what the fuck are you doing here? How did you get here? And I was just kind of like laughing about it, kind of. And then they like, at the same time that they were like looking and so surprised that I was on the outside of the building. That was the thing too, because the building itself, like it was all brick. They had done something where like, even though the box inside of this building was locked, and the building itself was just like a fake exterior almost, they had pretty much blocked all of the windows and everything. Like everything became brick. Like it was just a big giant brick case, right? Where like nobody could get out. And they were so sure that nobody could get out of it. And when they realized that I had gotten out of it, they were like in shock. And like at the same time that that was happening, like in my head it was at the same time, even though it was obviously sequential, they were trapped in it. Like they were now in the building. And I remember them being like, what the fuck? Like, how did she do that? How did she do that? How did she put us where we had tried to put her? And how is it that she's out? And I remember being very proud of that. But there was some reason that I was afraid. And maybe just like that they were going to try to get out. I remember like, so like where I was looking at the building, it was like in a sort of courtyard that was like real like deserty. And I was like pretty much trying to get out of there, trying to figure out how I was going to get out. And I remember calling 911 from my phone to come pick me up. But it was like not the cops, it was the ambulance that I was calling. And I was trying to tell them where the place was. And I was trying to explain what happened, and they like didn't believe me. They didn't really get it. But they're like, okay, well, we're on our way, so they were like, can you tell us where you're at? And I didn't know. I'm like trying to tell them where I'm at, and I'm like trying to describe the building, and they're like, that doesn't ring a bell, the thing that you're talking about. And so I like went around the outside of this building, and there was like this long walkway. It was real pretty, but it was like very deserty and like desert styled. There was like this stone archway, and there was these giant statues that were like artistic statues. And one of them I remember being like a big green hand, or like a copper hand. And there were other ones that were like real big things. And paradise. I like called it paradise. I don't know if I saw a sign. I think I saw a sign or something, and I remember being like, it's paradise. And they were like, okay, we're gonna come get you. But then the ambulance showed up, and I remember like, I don't know, I just remember being kind of scared. Okay, so that's what I get from this. It was weird, because I think I woke up after that. I don't even remember where the dream changed. Let me see if I put it down. I thought that I did. But this is from... last year. Hold on, I just want to see if this is it. No. I have other dreams in here that are just insane. Yeah, now I'm almost remembering that this isn't even it. I don't know what the fuck I'm reading, but it made me remember that, like, I can't find it. It might even be in a different phone. I don't know. But it's making me think about how in the building before all of that took place, like before the party or whatever, like at the party, like it was actually like almost like a hotel. And I remember being up in one of the rooms that was like higher. I don't know what was going on, but I remember coming out into the hallway and like there was like, it was like open at the end of the hallway. Like, and you could see like blue sky and clouds. It was like straight actually open. And there's just a lot of chaos going on and people were trying to fuck with me. And I remember like it seemed very pleasant at first, but then I realized people were fucking with me. And they thought I was just stupid. They thought I didn't get it and didn't know. So then I started playing stupid. And to see how stupid they really thought I was like, okay. Like these were people I was supposed to know or people I was supposed to be close to somehow. But the weirdest thing about all of that, I know that was a weird dream, okay? But the weirdest thing about all of that, first off, during that period of time, I was having a lot of dreams like that, where like people were trying to trap me or trying to do like weird types of magic shit that was like trying to trap me in my own mind, and I was like finding these crazy ways to get out of it, and everybody was like, the fuck, how are you doing this? It was very weird time of my dream life. But recently, I went driving to go visit a friend that was like 40 minutes out of town. I'd never been over there, and I was using my GPS, and for some reason my GPS took me on this one road. I was following my GPS, and it looked, according to the GPS, it looked like if I took this left, it was leading me, like I was supposed to be like 2 miles away from where this girl was. But when I got to the destination of where it said, it changed. Like I literally got to where the thing was and where it said that she was supposed to be, and it was like a fucking circle neighborhood. Like it was like at the end of a long road, and then it just like went up a hill and came back down and then went back out. And that was not where she lived at all. She lived like 20 minutes still further away. But it literally told me I was about to be at her house and literally had the red little symbol like I was about to be there. But where the red symbol was nothing. Once I got to it, there wasn't even like a house there. And so I just like went up and around and came back down, and it had completely moved by the time I came back down. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? It was really weird. However, on that road, when I took that road for whatever weird reason, according to my GPS, before I got to where I thought she was. So I was still thinking that I'm like just a minute away from where she is, like that I'm about to be right where she is. I came up over this hill, and right on the top of this hill was the fucking building. This building. And there was like these statues around it, and I recognized the entire area. And it was called the Oasis. I had called it Paradise in my dream, but it was called the Oasis. And I remember being like so tripped out. Like, I thought it was super cool, actually. I remember as soon as I saw it being like, my fucking dream. And then being like thinking about how funny it was to me in the dream that I had gotten out and that they were trapped in it. But then as I kept driving, like I'm thinking like I'm about to be right at the girl's house, and I'm all like excited to tell her about this really crazy thing because she lives. I was like, what are the chances that you just happen to live right by this place that I literally had a dream about? She didn't. She lived 20 minutes away from there. There was no reason for me to be over there, except to realize that it was a real place. That was wild. That was really wild. And it's not like it's the first time that things like that have happened to me in my life. But like even in this image, there's this girl doing a handstand as the tower's falling. Lord of the hosts of the mighty. And it's coming up with the Eight of Wands, the Lord of Swiftness, in the reverse. So it's coming up with this idea of taking it slow, not being on the defense. And like, I guess that was the thing about it, because in the dream, the second that I had the opportunity to be defensive, to be scared, to try to fight, instead of doing that, I just became empowered, right? Like, what did I say when I first started this reading? About empowerment, about being empowered. Geez, you probably remember because you're watching it, and I can't even remember. I was talking about men and women, and reason versus intuition. You probably know exactly what I'm thinking, and I'm not hearing it. Empowerment. Well, that's the message. I hope you got it the first time, because I'm not repeating it, because I can't remember what it was. See, this is why I need to get better sleep. Why I need to go to sleep. I wanted to drink this tea to wind down, but it's still so hot. So hot. I boiled the water too hot, too much, too long. You're supposed to take it slow. They were so curious. They could not believe, how did I do that? And I didn't even really know. I mean, I did it on purpose. That's why I was sitting there with popcorn watching it. But at the same time, like, it's not like it was something I can necessarily explain outside of the fact that I just understood how it worked. They thought they knew. And they were wrong. And I think it just goes back, I guess, to like that sense of I said that I didn't trust my intuition, but it wasn't my intuition that brought up the fuel with the car. That was my boss's intuition. But instead of recognizing it as intuition at all, it doesn't matter if it's mine or if it's yours, we're all the same person. So I still feel like this sense of responsibility where it's like, if your intuition is pinging, and that's what it is. I was reading their minds. I already knew what they were doing. They weren't reading mine. But it's like, don't get arrogant. Arrogance isn't empowerment. That's what I was saying, is that a toxic masculine is in the feminine, and a toxic feminine is in the masculine, and an empowered feminine is not masculine, and empowered masculine is not feminine. I wasn't trying to be something I wasn't. I wasn't trying to be like them. I wasn't fighting fire with fire. That's what they didn't understand about, like, how are we in this same place we meant to put you? And I've done this. And then people are like, oh, you must be into black magic because that's what I was doing on you. And now suddenly I'm dealing with this karma. That's really what they're saying. But what they're not understanding is that, like, I'm not even fighting fire with fire. I'm empowering myself. And because you're not empowered and you're trying to empower yourself through me, and because I'm taking my power back, you are just going to end up getting what you were trying to put out. Which wasn't my power. It was an attempt to entrap. And since I pulled my power out of that, all there is left is the trap. I don't have to give away all my secrets. I choose to. Listen, I just don't feel like I'm supposed to even be pulling any other cards. I want to do a full-ass reading, but my energy is so weird. And I feel like this was a sufficient message for what I was trying to get across. I wasn't trying to get anything across when I started, but this has turned into a sufficient message. I was also thinking last night about how a lot of people might be annoyed when watching these types of things if they've watched other tarot readings, because I am generally pulling like just a couple cards and then talking a whole bunch. Hopefully it's educational for you and entertaining and beneficial, and not just coming across like me time, you know, because that's definitely not what's going on here. I am trying to teach. I'm also trying to learn. All right, it's probably bedtime. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.